a lot of money has the ability to shape society, which means BlackRock is going to use their dollars to shape society in the manner in which they would like to see it. Now, none of us got to vote for this. What if we don't want what BlackRock wants? And how do we fight against that?
Everybody, welcome to Conversations That Matter. I'm your host, Alex Newman. It's great to have you with us. We have a very special guest today, and you are just going to be thrilled, I think, when you hear this. He's the state treasurer of West Virginia. His name is Riley Moore. He's also the chairman of the state's board of Treasury Investments, and he is up to something incredibly significant. His office announced recently that they would no longer be using BlackRock, the enormous investment arm of the establishment, if you will, that's been pushing these woke policies, trying to bankrupt oil producers, coal producers, and they'd be putting the state's money elsewhere. Treasurer Moore, thank you so much for joining us. And to start off with, just tell us, why did you guys make this decision to leave BlackRock and pursue other alternatives?
Well, thanks for having me. Yes. So, look, we took a look at this when I got into office, and we were in a BlackRock liquidity fund. Our inflows and outflow of that were about $1.5 billion. It's an overnight account for us. So they were making pretty good money off of it. And look, BlackRock is diametrically opposed to our businesses here in the state of West Virginia. We produce coal and gas and some oil, and it just doesn't make sense for us to do business with BlackRock when at the same time they're trying to destroy our businesses, our way of life, our economy, and our jobs. I mean, to me, what they're doing is absolutely un-American. And we're going to continue to stand up and fight against these type of woke financial institutions all over this country. And we have a bill running right now in the legislature that's going to allow me to do a little bit more of that. And so we're just kind of getting started on this, and BlackRock was the first one to go, but it won't be the last. I can promise you that.
Fascinating. And, for the folks out there who don't know, BlackRock is enormous. They have something like $10 trillion under management. It's a multinational investment management company based in New York. And they're absolutely huge. And they have really been pushing these different agendas that the treasurer is talking about. In fact, Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock, has been pushing not just an anti-coal agenda, an anti-reliable fuels agenda, but he's also pushing a woke social and cultural agenda on companies all over the world, even as a condition of investment. Treasurer Moore, can you speak to kind of the woke policies that BlackRock is pushing, and how do these align with the folks in West Virginia and also the other states that are moving in this direction?
Well, it's rife with hypocrisy, first is what I'd say. So while they're saying no new coal-fired plants in the United States, China is currently building 55 brand new coal-fired plants. BlackRock is heavily invested in China. China, as we know, has been taking our jobs for decades. They are our adversary, obviously, in the world, and they're more than happy to take their money and continue to make money. So wrapped up into this woke capitalism that we have going on here, if you could even use that term, ESG, right? Your environmental, social governance. The social aspect of that is supposed to be things about human rights and things like that. Meanwhile, China is manufacturing products essentially with slave labor. They have a genocide going on over there right now, but they're more than happy to continue to do business with them. So, you talked about some of these social issues that they're trying to push. The very interesting aspect in that letter that if your listeners have not seen, they should take a look. And it says, capitalism has the power to shape society. So let's unpack really what that means. It means capital. A lot of money has the ability to shape society, which means BlackRock is going to use their dollars to shape society in the manner in which they would like to see it. Now, none of us got to vote for this. What if we don't want what BlackRock wants? And how do we fight against that? It's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm leading a 15-state coalition right now where we are all reforming our banking contracts in our various states for banks that are boycotting the fossil fuel industry. That's some of that legislation that I actually have going through the state legislature in West Virginia right now. We're going to publicly list these financial institutions that are undertaking this. But this is, socialism to me, because at the end of the day, we're talking about command and control economics. And command and control economics is a hallmark of socialism, saying this industry is good and that industry is bad. Not only that, we've come up with what we think is the way society should act, the way they should be. And also, where does this end with these ESG scoring systems that we have? We see this massive collusion in between the liberal political class now and the corporate managerial class coming together to try to push down their values onto us. So at some point, do we have personal ESG scores that are part of your credit score? Who knows? It's a slippery slope, and we've got to stand up and fight against it.
Yeah, absolutely, Treasurer Moore. And actually, I have heard serious people propose an ESG score for individuals, kind of like a social credit score like they do in China.
Exactly.
I want to delve a little bit deeper into this ESG before we switch to kind of Russia and fossil fuels. But I've heard people talk about, people like Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. They've been talking about this for years, this idea of stakeholder capitalism, a total reformation of our businesses away from serving the consumer and the shareholder and toward really serving the goals of politicians and people like the guys at the World Economic Forum. What do you think about that whole concept? I mean, is that a worthwhile thing to explore, or should companies focus, as they have historically in free markets, on serving their customers, serving the consumers and their shareholders, of course, the owners of the company?
Well, certainly that's what they should be focused on. They should be focused on profits and driven in that manner and serving consumers, but that's not what they're focused on. I mean, we have a global elite right now throughout the world, and BlackRock obviously being part of this. And just for context, the $10 trillion assets under management they have, that is half of the United States' GDP in a given year. This is a massive amount of leverage that they have. And we've seen them take over boards like on Chevron and stuff like that. Chevron, an oil company now, is adopting standards as it relates to environmental standards that gets them out of oil. I mean, it's a huge takeover from the corporate side, from the political side, to try to get us into a society in which, as I said, none of us have voted for, and I don't think many Americans want at all. And it's the idea of, the global citizen, and we're all in alignment with these goals and standards. Well, to me, I see this as, the managerial elite in this country and around the world, the globalists, versus your everyday American and working individual and working class person here in this country. That's who this is versus. It's the working class versus this managerial elite. And that's why it's great a program like yours is actually talking about this, because there are a lot of people that are not necessarily clued into what is happening right now in this country. And we have to raise awareness about it, because we could get to a situation where it actually becomes too late.
Yeah, absolutely. This issue of energy, I think, has taken on a really critical significance right now with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. You have companies like BlackRock, and you have certain political leaders, not just in the United States, but around the world, trying to really destroy and undermine the energy industry, not just in America, but in Britain and across Western Europe. And we've seen what that's led to. That has made us, and especially Western European governments, completely dependent on the Russians for their energy needs, to try to keep warm in the winter. It's put us quite in a vulnerable position. Do you see any national security implications from this kind of behavior from these big corporations like BlackRock that are discouraging energy in the United States, destroying jobs in West Virginia, while the Russians and the Chinese and the Venezuelans and so on keep pumping oil out like there's no tomorrow?
Absolutely. There's a national security issue here, and it's energy independence is strength. Energy independence is strength. We have to have energy independence in this country. It's a national security priority. A long time ago, NATO used to talk about energy security. That was a big pillar of what they used to discuss all the time. But then you watch the Europeans, this is a harbinger of what could happen here in this country, is you have everyone shifted in Europe to green energy standards, wind and solar and all of those things. Even Germany went to the extent to get rid of nuclear power. And then they found out, well, that's actually not base load energy. And so we're going to have to get energy from other resources. And that ended up being Russia. So that's where a lot of this natural gas is coming into Europe. That's what makes it such a volatile and precarious situation that these European countries find themselves in as it relates to Europe right now and their security. And the worst thing is the United States, we're very limited in our ability to be able to help the Europeans because everyone says, well, why don't we just send them LNG? Well, we can't send them the types of quantities of LNG that they require because we don't have the pipelines to do it, because they've been blocking all of the pipelines in this country for years. We can't get it out to port. West Virginia, we're the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. We're ready to go. 50% of all coal burned, and they still do burn coal, by the way, in Germany. 50% of all the coal burned in Germany comes from Russia. But the war on coal years back under the Obama administration collapsed a lot of the coal industry. We are still producing a decent amount of coal, but nowhere what we were doing before. So we had a huge amount of consolidation take place. Our coal companies, we are booked out till 2023 on coal production. We can't produce any more than we're doing right now. And it's not only to the detriment of this country, it's to the detriment of our Western allies over in Europe right now. People are being held hostage. There is a reason China is building 55 brand new coal-fired power plants. They see this. They are preparing. We are not prepared to meet the biggest challenge to our country that is going to come in the coming years and decades, and that is China. And we need to get prepared for this, or we're going to get caught flat-footed, just like the Europeans have right now as it relates to Russia.
Yeah, and I've watched this up close and personal. I've been going to these UN climate summits as a reporter for the last decade, and it's incredible to see Western leaders say, yeah, we're going to dismantle our energy, we're going to go to windmills, and China says, oh, maybe by 2030, we'll think about stopping the growth of new coal-fired power plants. It's unbelievable to watch it. Treasurer, I want to ask you about this coalition you guys are building. You mentioned you guys have 15 other states that you're now working with. Most states in America are actually governed by Republicans, with Republican governors and Republican legislatures. Why only 15? And what are some of the next steps that you guys will be taking in the weeks and months ahead to really hammer this home?
Well, I think, there are some that are worried about the political blowback around taking on the financial services industry in this country as it relates to the fossil fuel boycott that's going on. And look, as Republicans, we got to stop talking. We got to stop talking and start acting. That is why we're elected. We need to stand up and fight. And if we don't, I think the people of this country are going to find other people that will, and they should. And look, I'm sure I'm running some political risk here, but I'm not trying to do this for a living for the rest of my life. I'm here to do everything I can to stand up and fight for my state and my people. And not only that, the United States, for that matter. Energy independence being such a huge, important objective for us as a country and to ensure our national security. And it's the 15 state coalition that we have, they are making movements right now to do this. That fossil fuel boycott bill that I mentioned as it relates to the banking contracts, there are several other states running this bill. Kentucky is running it. Oklahoma is running this bill. They ran it in Indiana, where they do have a supermajority, and the bill died. They have a Republican supermajority and the bill died. So they're gearing up into a big fight for this, and we're ready to go, and we're going to keep pushing on it. Certainly, we ran into some obstacles here in the West Virginia state legislature, I will tell you, but we're going to keep pushing ahead. We're confident that we're going to win here in West Virginia on this. And as I said, we're just getting started because we have to continue this fight, because it's for the survival and the economic vitality of our country.
Amen. And before we let you go, Treasurer, please give some ideas to the grassroots out there. There's a lot of Americans, I know you know, that are just so frustrated with what they see going on with the woke corporations and the war on our energy and what's going on in this country and around the world. What are some ideas for the grassroots out there that want to get involved, that want to see something like this in their state? Maybe people in Indiana or people in other states where there is a Republican legislature, there is a Republican governor, Republican, statewide offices up and down the ballot. How can people get involved? What can people do?
Well, I mean, on a very, very basic level, people that have pensions, 401ks, I would talk to your 401k and your pension manager and ask them, what are we invested in? What am I invested in? Am I invested? You ask them about their emerging market fund. I think you'd be surprised to find out you're probably invested in China. You're probably invested in things that you don't want to be. You're probably in BlackRock index funds, as many, many states are. And it is a process to unwind that. But I think raising the temperature at an individual level, I think is critical to be able to do this. And, support politicians that are actually out here. And I hate using that term. I guess I am one of them now since I'm in office, but it's, supporting folks that are in office that are standing up and fighting for this. And there are people in our coalition that are doing this. We're constantly updating my website on things that we're doing, which is more4wv.com. If you want to learn more about the letters that we've sent out to the Biden administration, the coalition letter that we sent out, you can see the states that are on there, and urge your states to join as well. But that letter is up on my website if you're curious if your state is part of this coalition or not.
Wonderful. Well, we'll put that website up. And, there are politicians and there are statesmen, and statesmen are those who do the right thing and stand on principle, even when there may be blowback from a big corporation or something like that. So Treasurer Moore, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for what you're doing. And we'll be sure to keep the viewers updated on what's going on. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that was Treasurer Riley Moore of West Virginia, leading a historic coalition to keep taxpayers' money safe from woke corporations that are waging war on the industries that support our communities, that provide our jobs, and that feed our families. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Alex Newman. This is Conversations That Matter. Until next time, God bless you all.